Why don't you give us a rundown real quick of what owner finance is so our audience can understand what we're talking about?
Well, thank you, Ben, for putting me on the spot. Owner finance is, like you said in your intro, when the buyer can't get conventional financing, either due to their financial situation or because the property sometimes does not qualify for traditional financing. So what happens is the buyer and the seller will get together, negotiate terms. The seller will act as the lender. So they will finance the loan for the buyer. They negotiate price, interest rates, the term of the loan, if there's any balloon payments, down payment. If you do it right, it could be very advantageous for both sides because you don't have all the rules of traditional financing.
Yeah, and sometimes it doesn't have to be a situation where it can't go conventional or the buyer can't get a normal loan. Sometimes people just elect to do it because there's reasons why. The seller may want to make interest on their investment. Buyer may not want to go get normal financing or deal with the bank. So there are situations outside of just the property doesn't fit or the buyer can't get a loan that make owner finance a possibility or make it advantageous to both the buyer and seller. But having said that, just for a normal person to understand what owner finance is, if I were selling a property for $100,000 and Paul said, "Hey, I'm going to come in and put $10,000 down. We'll negotiate an interest rate and a term of payment, and then I'll make payments to you over the next 5 years. And after 5 years, I've got to get my own financing." That's in essence what we're talking about with an owner finance. Now, there's a lot of ins and outs to that and big mistakes you can make, and those big mistakes can cost you, whether you're a buyer or seller. There's mistakes on both sides that can be made, and as a transaction as a whole. But that's what we want to talk about today. So, Aspen, I'm going to jump to you first. If you're a seller, what would be one of the biggest mistakes you could make in an owner finance situation?
I think one of the biggest mistakes that you could make is, there's a handful, but I think the biggest would be if your buyers aren't actually qualified to buy the property and you negotiate, let's say, like you did, a 5-year balloon, and then that 5-year term comes and the buyers actually can't get financing on the property. You might be having to negotiate again or working on getting your property back, or what if they made really big changes to it? So if they're not actually qualified to purchase in the first place, I think that's where you could run into a really big sticky situation at the end.
Yeah, because then you're kicking the can down the road. Maybe they can make the monthly payment, but they couldn't qualify otherwise. And so then you're tied to that property for longer than 5 years or 7 or even 3 years. Oftentimes we do 3-year balloons where a buyer, it gives them 36 months to kind of get their normal financing in order, and the seller agrees to carry the contract for a while. But that's a big one because you don't want to be stuck at the end of that. And I think most of us are nice. There's some kind of mean business people out there that would say,
"What are you looking at me for?"
Well, what would you do in a situation where you got to the end of 5 years, someone had paid for their mortgage for 5 years to you, and then they come to you and they say, "Paul, I can't get my financing." What would you do?
Probably let them keep paying my mortgage.
Exactly. Yeah. And so,
which is a bummer for you because maybe you needed that balloon payment for something else. So a not nice person could say, "Not my problem."
You made your payments for 5 years. You didn't perform. And guess what? Property's now mine again, and I get to resell it. Or you're going to pay me some big, big penalties. And that's where I'm saying, it does harm the people that are nice because you could take that money and put it somewhere else. You've had plans to pay for your children's college or whatever it is. Buy that new shiny boat or pontoon. You're a pontoon guy, aren't you?
What?
Buy that big pontoon boat you've been wanting.
I would not buy a boat.
Yeah. Well, you need to buy a boat because I need a friend that has a boat.
I've been saying that. Someone needs a boat.
Yeah.
So preferably a wakeboarding boat.
That's right.
I know a lot of people with boats, and I'm not of that kind. I don't know. I'm not a fishing guy. Yeah. My brother-in-law had a boat for a long time, and I was a hazard on that boat.
You get to frequent the boat without having to pay for the boat.